Oh, Hollywood. I really don't hope you change. I mean, a significant portion of this channel is laughing at some of the things that Hollywood celebrities do. And every time there is a national issue, a good handful of them will open their mouths and look absolutely ridiculous. Now we have the Oscars enacting what can only be described as a race quota, and so much more. And, everything that started just a few weeks ago has brought up a lot of gaffes, myself included. I've definitely let out a few hot takes that cost me some money, and that's the name of the game. This article in Bonding into Comics says over 40 Hollywood celebrities who donated to social justice causes and a variety of funds. A number of Hollywood's biggest celebrities pledged to promote social justice causes in the wake of protests. These organizations include BLM, NAACP, the National Bail Fund, and Minnesota Freedom Fund, and others. And by the way, I've never really been a charity guy, just because so little of the money actually gets to the people that actually need it. So these super huge mega charities that have millions and millions of dollars pouring into them right now, pennies will make it to the streets. I get that you want to be helpful, but I wish people would be more careful with how they donated their money. I mean, you have these Hollywood celebrities stroking a check for $1 million. Why don't you open up a small business loan foundation in Minnesota so people can apply for help to, I don't know, rebuild the businesses that their own communities tore down, or a wide variety of that thing. Donate money to, education funds, rec centers, churches, even, if that's what you want to do. These like, oh, I donate money to BLM. Great. I get my retweets. Everyone says I'm stunning and brave. I don't think that does a lot. John Cena donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter. J.J. Abrams, a bad robot, donated a huge amount of money. Jordan Peele donated $1 million. Angelina Jolie donated $200,000 to the NAACP. Ryan Reynolds, $200K. Brooklyn Nine-Nine cast donated $100K to the National Bail Fund Network, which is crazy because most of the people that got locked up got released without bail, with only appearance notices. So what is the National Bail Fund Network going to do with the millions of dollars that have rolled in? Steve Carell donated $50? 50? I mean, I guess. Lady in the Tramp voice actor Janelle Monáe donated $1,000. Don Cheadle donated $1,000 to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. These are pretty light donations. Ben Schwartz from Sonic donated a whopping $50. Patton Oswalt, whopping $50. Big money from Hollywood celebrities. Nick Kroll, many others. And you know what? Fine, donate your money. You know what? Donate your money. I'd rather you donate it to better causes. More research causes. I don't think that a large chunk of the money that you're pouring into these bail funds is ever really going to do anything to help people. BLM as a charity itself is suspect. Where the money goes, I've seen some pretty curious information going around. And by the way, it's not just BLM. Again, it's all charities that are usually sus. That's why, Toys for Tots is one that I donate to every Christmas. I think last year I did $5,000, maybe $10,000. And then the year before that, a large sum to Toys for Tots. But it's hard to find a good charity. But nonetheless, Hollywood is out here now desperately tripping over themselves to virtue signal. So now we've got essentially race quotas. The Oscars will add inclusivity requirements for eligible films. And let's actually look at the New York Times coverage of this, because this is a little more robust, because I think it's pretty hilarious to me that they can't see that you would have some sort of quota. You having some sort of quota is a negative thing. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which oversees the Academy Awards, announced Friday a handful of efforts to improve inclusion in both its organization and for the Oscars themselves. The annual telecast, which next year may be in flux because of the challenges posed by Tom Hanks' disease, the Academy will create a task force to develop new inclusion standards. The Academy has not yet determined what those standards will be, and the films submitted this year will not be affected. The organization announced that the Best Picture category will be a set of 10 films rather than the fluctuating number of nominations that has been set since the 2010 Oscars. Internally, the organization's board of governors amended its bylaws to limit the terms of each governor, which may serve on the board for a maximum of 12. The previous was no limit. I think this is a good idea. It's unclear what the diversity requirements will be, what will entail, but the Academy could take a page from its brethren in Britain. In 2019, the British Film Institute became the first major awards body to introduce diversity and inclusion criteria into its eligibility requirements. All entries into 2 British film categories, Outstanding British Film and Outstanding Debut by a British Writer, Director, or Producer, are now required to increase representation to meet at least 2 of the 4 diversity standards, like on-screen representation, themes and narratives, and industry access and opportunities, among others. This is a really bizarre thing to require of artists. Essentially, you're hamstringing them with certain requirements. Now, maybe it's like, hey, you don't have any exclusionary hiring practices. Okay, I buy that. But if it's like, oh, you need to cover these themes or topics in your videos or your movies, or you won't be eligible for an award, that seems counterproductive to me. That seems like, why? Why would you do that? This needs to address the issues. The need to address this issue is urgent. The Academy Chief Executive Dawn Hudson said, well, yeah, if you don't address it now, you won't get as many likes and retweets. You're already losing your window to make a stunning and brave statement. To that end, we will amend and continue to examine our rules. These efforts, which are part of an initiative titled Academy Aperture 2025, will also include a series of panels titled Academy Dialogue, It Starts With Us, for members and the public on race, ethnicity, and history. A forthcoming conversation led by Whoopi Goldberg, a member of the Board of Governors, will center around the impact of racist tropes and harmful stereotypes in Hollywood films. And we've already seen this play out in the erasure of historical films. We've seen this with Gone with the Wind. We've seen a wide variety of comedy shows dated back, many years, removed from streaming services. And of course, this is exactly what the religious, the ultra uber religious people were doing in the 90s. Removing things, hiding things will not change anything. In fact, what it will do is entrench those whom already have those beliefs and provide them a bit of what's the word for it? You provide them evidence that maybe they are in the right and that people are against them and just trying to hide it. What you need to do is point these topics out and laugh at them. The idea that somebody would do blackface in 2020 in Hollywood is hilarious to me. Do I think, hilariously, that anyone would think that's okay? But, Howard Stern doing it 15 years ago and dropping the hard R a bunch of times is pretty funny given the position that clown sits in nowadays. The Academy's membership came under intense scrutiny in 2016. The second year in a row, the organization did not nominate any actors of color for Oscars and overlooked films focused on black creators. Again, just because all the winners of a category were white does not mean that racism is a thing. It doesn't. In a year where you have thousands of films released, maybe that'll happen. And then we saw in 2017 a hilarious push the other way. We had the Oscars so white outrage. And then in 2015, 8% of people of color and 25% were women. As of last year, people of color made up 16%, and membership according to the Academy of Women made up 32%. On Wednesday, the Academy announced its new board of governors, adding director of Ava DuVernay to its ranks. In addition, a bunch of other tokens to get their numbers up. Female Academy governors 26 out of 54, and the people of color to 12. Membership is expected to expand. This is so crazy to me that you'd be so obsessed with the color of people's skin and not the quality of the product they're putting out. This is ridiculous. Representation, you would hope would be something that exists naturally. In recent years, this article says the Academy has been criticized largely for white nomination slate, leading to the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite, first going viral in 2015. The big winner at the year's 92nd Academy Award was Parasite, a South Korean film, but few other feature films to non-white creators, writers, and directors were nominated. Also, last week, David, Oyelowo revealed that members of the Academy told producers of the 2014 film Selma that they would not vote for the movie because its cast attended its premiere wearing T-shirts that commemorated the ending of a police officer. Commemorated the act of, they made a political statement about a bad officer. While on-screen diversity has made considerable strides in the past few years, progress behind the camera has been far slower. Not a single black filmmaker has ever won Best Director, Actor, Oscar, and in 2019, under 15% of Hollywood's top films were written or directed by people of color. I don't know. I think that if you can prove to me that there's an actual system preventing black actors and directors from succeeding, that's a conversation I want to have. If you're going to use this nebulous, systemic, whatever, boogity man that's, holding everybody back, I don't want to hear that. I don't think that promoting people based on the color of their skin is a good way to promote equality. I think it's a way that you're going to sow the seeds of discontent. You're going to create an environment where there are genuinely people who are now mad, and every time you're gonna have people that think every time maybe a black actor gets a role over them, they're gonna think, oh, it's a diversity quota, and then people are gonna start to resent black folks. I mean, I think that's natural. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying that this kind of thinking leads to that. It's the same thing that, when a woman gets promoted a week after the company issues some crazy, mantra about how they need more women in leadership, everybody's going to question whether that woman actually earned it or not. I think you've got to just quietly do these things, promote the best person for the job, create opportunities. Look, Hollywood rose up and shilled out like $20 million to charity in a week. Why not take that money and put $20 million into a fund to send black kids to film school? Wouldn't that have been a more practical solution than pouring it into some nebulous charity fund? If you're so worried about, representation in Hollywood, why doesn't Hollywood fix the problem? I suppose in this way they think that they are, but I don't think that having quotas for diversity is exactly the best way to go about it. I'll be interested in hearing what your comments are in the comment section down below. We'll talk to you again real soon.